Good afternoon. My research project is a systematic review looking at the reliability of grip strength measures in adults living with a neurological condition. This study is currently under review for publication at the American Occupational Therapy Journal, and the authors listed here are the co-authors that assisted me in completing this study. So, why are grip strength measures so important? Reduced grip strength is associated with poor cardiovascular health and is an indicator of frailty and a direct measure of muscle weakness. The importance of assessing grip strength was highlighted in a recent study of over 500,000 participants, and it showed that a decline in grip strength is a better predictor of cardiovascular related death than both physical activity levels and systolic blood pressure. People who have neurological conditions often experience poor cardiovascular health and muscle weakness. Because of this, grip strength is often assessed in these populations. Grip strength is important in the field of occupational therapy because it is a major contributor to hand function and impacts activities of daily living such as grooming or dressing. Because of the widespread use of grip strength as an outcome measure in neurological populations, it's important to know properties such as the test-retest reliability of these measures. There is currently only one study that provides level 1 evidence of reliability of grip strength measures in populations living with a neurological condition. However, after a perusal of their search terms and included studies, it showed that this study did not comprehensively review the literature specifically to this population. And so, the aim of this systematic review is to systematically and comprehensively examine articles assessing the reliability of grip strength measures in adults living with a neurological condition. Our search strategy used this broad combination of terms that was used to make sure that all relevant articles were included. Databases such as Scopus, PubMed, Web of Science, Cochrane were systematically searched on and up to the 25th of February of this year. All articles included were screened firstly based on title and abstract, and then the full text was read to retrieve more information about the study. Studies included in these reviews were full-text articles that investigated reliability of grip strength measures in populations with any neurological condition. Studies that were not included were studies not published in English or had non-human participants or were short conference abstracts. Based on the potential relevance of the articles for this review, abstracts and full text were screened by two independent reviewers, and then the data were extracted and using a standardized form by a third reviewer with extensive experience using the Cosman 11 item scale. These data included things like participant characteristics, neurological condition, the device used, trial characteristics, variables collected, statistical analyses performed, and the results. The quality of all included articles was assessed using the Cosman 11 item reliability rating scale. The 11 items include things like sample size, time interval between testing sessions, and any design flaws reported. This is used to rank each item on a 4-point scale from poor to excellent. So it goes poor, fair, good, excellent. In this snip, I've highlighted the third item, which was the sample size adequate? This is because, as you can see, it's very easy to interpret. For example, if the study had less than 30 participants, it was a poor study, and if it had more than 100 participants, it was considered excellent and would score excellent in that item. However, in item number 7, which is here, were the patients stable in the interim period? It's much trickier to interpret, which is why it was necessary to have an experienced researcher grading that. So, as you can see, 4,658 articles were retrieved when we first did the search. After duplicates were removed, there were 3,014 articles left, and the titles were screened of those, and 2,919 were removed, leaving 122. From these, the abstracts or full texts were screened for all of these, leaving us with 20 articles that met the eligibility criteria and were included in this study. Descriptive characteristics of the included studies and their participants were collected. These included things like age range. This included standard deviation or the mean age. Most studies included participants who were older adults, and the overall range of all participants included was from 18 to 91 years old. Gender. All studies included had mixed gender participants with a higher proportion of males overall. And the measuring device used. A variety of tools were used to measure the participants' grip strength. The Jamar dynamometer was the most commonly used, with other common tests being things like the grip-it instrument or the metrosity index. This figure was created to represent the results of everything that we drew out of the articles. The x-axis represents all the articles that we included, and the y-axis represents the items of the Cosman scale. For example, the first one, starting at the bottom, was the percentage of missing items given? The second one, was there a description of how missing items were handled? Was the sample size included in the analysis adequate? Were there at least 2 measurements available? Were the administrations independent? Was the time interval stated? Were the patients stable in the interim period of the construct to be measured? Was the time interval appropriate? And for this we put between 1 day and 2 weeks being appropriate. Were the test conditions similar for both measurements? Were there any important flaws in the design or methods of the study? And was an ICC calculated? We also created a key, so 0 or white represented excellent, 1 represented good, 2 represented poor, and dark red or 2 represented fair, and dark red or 3 represented poor. And so you can see a visual representation of the results that we got out of these studies. It's important to note that although for the Cosman scale you take the worst score counts, not all of the items are weighted equally. For example, important design flaws. Were there important design flaws in the methods of the study? As you can see, quite a few scored poor on this, and it's because there were a lot of design flaws in these studies. These included things like low sample sizes, unclear design, or important information not being reported. This is an example of one of those studies, so Bertrand's study. As you can see here, that's the number of the participants, and that's the design flaws. In this study, the design flaw was that the study had a high dropout rate, and the participants that did not come to all testing were not included, but it wasn't stated why. So if they didn't come to all testing sessions, they weren't included, and that wasn't stated why. As opposed to this study by Blankford, where that's the number of participants, but as you can see, the design flaws were excellent. And so overall, this was an excellent study. All studies tested test-retest reliability or inter-rater reliability. This is when it's done by one assessor. The most commonly used statistical test for reliability was interclass correlation coefficient, and 16 studies reported excellent reliability for force. 4 of the studies looked at inter-rater reliability. This is when there are various assessors between sessions. The overall scoring for inter-rater reliability for the 4 studies proved very similar to the test-retest reliability. It was found that certain neurological conditions were assessed more often than others, and some significant conditions were not assessed at all. This could have been because of the condition that people with some neurological conditions are in and their lifespan. Of the 4 studies that examined dementia, they had inconsistent results, between the 4 studies, and this could have been because of the integrity of the studies and how they were conducted, or the instability of the condition of the people who are living with dementia. And so any further study done on this population should be done with a focus on consistency of testing results, of testing conditions. Most studies showed that grip strength measures are reliable in the examined neurological condition. Despite the various grip strength assessment tools, reliability results were predominantly excellent in intra and inter-rater reliability. The most commonly used measurement tool was the JAMA dynamometer, and this isn't surprising because it's the most well-known and widely used grip strength assessment tool, and it's considered the criterion reference. It was shown to produce excellent reliability results. And the only tool that didn't report excellent reliability results was the MicroFET 2 manual muscle tester, and it's important to note that this device is a multi-purpose dynamometer, and it's not designed specifically for grip strength as a grip strength assessment tool. These 2 pictures show the JAMA and the MicroFET and compare them. And lastly, this systematic review is the first to comprehensively examine articles assessing reliability of grip strength measures in populations living with neurological conditions. In contrast to the other study in the prior review, which only assessed 4 studies, this present study assesses 20. This is because the other study didn't have comprehensive search terms. For example, they used reliability rather than reliable asterisks to encompass all words reliable, reliability. The databases that they used were not comprehensive, so they didn't use things like Scopus or PubMed, which are the most comprehensive databases. And they had a very non-specific population, so their population was not only neurological conditions. As such, this study provides additional support for the reliability of grip strength assessments in neurological populations that was not comprehensively covered in the prior article. The limitations of this study. No articles were found for less prevalent conditions such as Huntington's disease or Guillain-Barré syndrome, and only 1 was found for Parkinson's disease. While it's likely that these typically excellent results would translate to other neurological populations, condition-specific reliability and measurement error data is needed. And in conclusion, the majority of studies included found that grip strength measures used in adult populations living with a neurological condition have good to excellent inter- and intra-rater reliability. These results indicate that further studies should be done in other neurological populations, and more study could be done on specific conditions to obtain cohort-specific values. Thank you so much for listening, and I think it's also a good time for me to say thank you so much to the people that were included in this study, Michelle, Brittany and Shamla, who really helped me finish the study and get it out to be published, and to Ross, who was my supervisor, who dealt with, I think, not just me being stressed, a lot of OT students being stressed, but has done it with such grace, and I've learned so much working with him. So yeah, I am forever in debt to you, and I'm so thankful. These are my references, and if you have any questions, please ask them. I'll be live.